They mocked humanity's old fleet. Then the Relics awoke and fired back. The galaxy was loud with laughter whenever the subject of humanity's old warships came up. To most alien empires, Earth's fleets were nothing more than floating junk. They called them rusted coffins, dead metal, useless relics of a time when humans tried to compete in a war they could never win. The newer empires carried shining vessels, equipped with energy cores that glowed like captured suns and shields that shimmered like living fire. Humanity, on the other hand, seemed to protect its colonies with ships that looked older than the civilizations mocking them. Every alien diplomat, every commander, every merchant who traveled near human space had the same belief. The humans were weak. Their fleets were a museum, not a military. Their ships belonged in history books, not in the dark void of battle. Yet, deep in the silence of forgotten star systems, there was something none of the mocking voices understood. Humanity had not thrown away its old warships. Humanity had hidden them. Far beyond the mapped trade routes, beyond colonies and patrol lines, there drifted a graveyard of steel. Dozens, then hundreds of ships, each vast as mountains, floating in silence. Their hulls carried scars of battles that most aliens had never even studied. Their weapons were silent, their engines cold, and their names nearly erased from records. They were called relics, and humanity let the galaxy believe they were powerless. The truth was that the old fleet had never been destroyed. It had been put to sleep. Power cores lay dormant, waiting for a signal. Sensors that looked broken still twitched with life. Inside the hollow decks, old machines hummed once every cycle, like a sleeper taking a breath. No alien scout ever stayed long enough to investigate. The sight of so many dead ships made them laugh, shake their heads, and leave. But the fleet never stopped waiting. On Earth, only a few remembered the fleet. Generals spoke of it in whispers, politicians ignored it, and young officers called it a story told to frighten cadets. But in the archives, in the deepest vaults where no alien spy could reach, the truth was written in cold data. The forgotten fleet was not dead. It was waiting for a war great enough to deserve its awakening. When the first alien attack struck a human colony in the Outer Rim, the defenders called for aid. They were outnumbered, their shields breaking under the fire of alien cruisers. The new human fleet responded, but its numbers were too few, its ships too fragile against the polished strength of the invaders. Across the galaxy, alien leaders sneered. This was what they expected. Humans, brave but foolish, facing superior fire with outdated steel. The colony was marked for destruction, and humanity's fleets for humiliation. But far away, something stirred. The old fleet, buried in silence, caught the faint signal of distress. Its command cores, hidden in the bones of battleships, recognized the code. Old programs that had not spoken in centuries came alive. Lights flickered in the dark halls of massive carriers. Cannons that had not turned in lifetimes shifted a fraction, testing their freedom. The old warships were listening again. A single ship, larger than a city, opened its eyes. Its systems glowed with ancient energy, and its sensors stretched into the void. It felt the galaxy mocking, it heard the cries of its people, and it remembered war. One by one, other ships answered. Engines coughed back to life, power grids hummed, and weapons whispered with dangerous light. The aliens did not know it yet. They celebrated victory, believing the colony was doomed, believing humanity was helpless. But the silence of forgotten stars was breaking. A storm was waking in the dark, a storm built from relics the galaxy had mocked for too long. Humanity's old fleet had been patient, and now, the time for patience was ending. The galaxy thought the relics were dead, but the relics remembered. They remembered every battle, every enemy, every insult, and soon the galaxy would remember them too. The alien fleet surrounding the human colony was certain of its victory. Their ships gleamed with silver light. Their weapons tore into human defenses like knives cutting through thin cloth. From their command decks, alien admirals laughed at the resistance. They called the human fleet old rust, a pathetic wall trying to hold against a flood. And for a time they were right. Human cruisers fell one by one, burning in silence as families on the colony below watched helplessly. The colony's skies were lit with fire. Panic spread through the streets as alarms screamed and shelters filled. Children cried, parents prayed, and soldiers on the ground clenched their weapons, knowing orbital death would reach them before any alien soldier set foot on the soil. Humanity's new fleet was brave, but bravery did not stop the cold mathematics of war. Numbers mattered, and the aliens had more ships, more fire, and more arrogance. Across the galaxy, news began to spread. Channels whispered of another human defeat. Some empires celebrated, others simply nodded as if nothing surprising had happened. After all, humans had no chance. Their fleets were too old, their resources too small. But hidden deep in the black sea of forgotten stars, something else was happening, something the galaxy had not seen in centuries. The old fleet stirred again. What had begun as a faint spark in Part 1 now grew into something larger. Power surged through sleeping giants. Weapon systems that had not been tested in lifetimes flickered awake. One battleship, its name long erased from records, stretched its massive guns outward. Its sensors reached far, finding the colony, finding the threat, and most importantly, finding the cries of humans calling for help. A signal passed between the ancient ships, silent but powerful. One by one they answered. Old codes unlocked. Old shields rose. The void filled with quiet thunder as colossal reactors warmed. To the galaxy they still appeared as corpses drifting in forgotten space. But inside every deck, every system, every weapon was alive again. At the colony, human captains begged for reinforcements. No answer came. Their fleets broke apart, falling back toward the planet, trying to shield what they could with failing hulls. Alien commanders mocked them openly. Messages were sent across the battlefield. Surrender now or burn with your civilians. Humanity's leaders hesitated, knowing no reinforcements could arrive in time. And then the void shifted. At first, the aliens thought it was a sensor error. A sudden spike of power readings from dead coordinates, static whispered through their comms, strange pulses of energy echoing across their scanners. Admirals barked orders to check again, to ignore the false readings. But the readings did not fade. They grew stronger. Then the stars bent. One by one, the ancient warships appeared on long-range scanners. Their silhouettes were jagged, scarred, ancient, but massive. Each was larger than the ships currently used in the galaxy. Weapons hung from their hulls like claws. Their dark shapes blotted out the stars behind them, drifting with unnatural silence. Alien crews burst into nervous chatter. Some laughed, saying the relics were just broken hulls dragged by gravity. But laughter turned into silence when the relics powered their cannons. Blue fire burned in the dark, bright enough to blind sensors. The galaxy had mocked these ships, called them useless, but now they were alive, and their aim was fixed on the invaders. The first shot came from a destroyer thought extinct. A single beam lanced across space, crossing distances faster than any alien shield could calculate. It cut through an enemy cruiser in one strike, splitting it into two burning halves. Silence filled the alien fleet. Panic began to replace arrogance. Another volley followed. This time 3 ancient ships fired together, their blasts weaving into a storm of destruction. 2 more alien vessels disappeared in bursts of fire. Human defenders watched in disbelief as the tide shifted. Their broken fleet was no longer alone. The relics were here. For the first time in centuries, alien admirals felt fear. They barked orders, scrambled their formations, and turned their shields toward the new threat. But no matter how advanced their ships were, their technology had never faced the brutal, simple power of ancient human design. These relics were not fragile. They were predators disguised as corpses, and they were hungry. The colony below erupted in cheers as the night sky lit with alien wreckage. Soldiers who had been ready to die now looked up with tears in their eyes. The relics were not legends. They were real, and they were fighting. Humanity, mocked and insulted, had revealed a secret that the galaxy had forgotten. But the battle had just begun. The aliens were still many, their numbers great. The relics were few, their awakening only starting. Both sides knew the truth. The war was no longer simple. The galaxy's laughter had ended, replaced with silence. In that silence, fear was born. The alien admirals could not believe what they were seeing. The humans' so-called relics were not drifting wrecks after all. They were alive, awake, and firing with precision that tore through fleets considered untouchable. In the first few minutes, ships that had mocked the humans most loudly were now nothing but glowing debris in orbit. Panic moved faster than orders. Crews shouted, systems overloaded, and alien confidence shattered. One alien commander tried to steady his fleet. He barked into his comms, reminding them that these human warships were centuries old, built with outdated engines and ancient weapons. They cannot fight us for long, he insisted. But even as he spoke, another one of his cruisers vanished in a burst of burning light. The old ships did not hesitate, did not miss, did not stop. On the surface of the colony, humans watched in stunned silence. The defenders, who had expected to die under alien fire, now saw the impossible above them. Huge shadows blocked the stars, their weapons striking with thunderous beauty. To many, it looked like ghosts had risen to protect them, machines from forgotten wars carrying the will of ancestors who refused to let humanity fall. Soldiers saluted the sky, civilians wept, and children whispered the names of heroes they had never met. Inside one of the relic ships, the old systems continued their cold awakening. Programs written generations ago unfolded like blooming flowers. Artificial minds, half sleeping for centuries, now remembered their orders: protect humanity at any cost. Their voices were not human, not alive, yet every decision felt sharp with purpose. Target acquired, one whispered in digital silence. Enemy locked, another echoed. Together the fleet became one mind of war. The aliens tried to adapt. Their shields shifted. Their weapons fired in desperate salvos. Lasers crossed the void. Missiles screamed through the black, but the relics absorbed the damage with armor thicker than entire modern ships. The old battleships were not fast, not elegant, but they were unbreakable. Every hit they took was answered with a storm that broke apart enemy formations. For the first time in centuries, humanity's weakness had become humanity's strength. No alien had studied these ships seriously. They were considered too outdated to matter. No defense plans, no counter strategies, no simulations had ever prepared them for this. The galaxy had advanced, yes, but in chasing speed and elegance it had abandoned raw durability, and now that choice was burning them alive. One alien captain screamed for retreat, but his admiral refused. Pride was a chain heavier than steel. They had mocked humans for too long to run from junk. So the order was clear: press forward, destroy the relics, prove once and for all that humanity was nothing. And so, wave after wave of alien vessels hurled themselves into the storm. The relics did not flinch. Their cannon spoke again, each blast like the voice of a giant. Whole squadrons vanished in seconds. A dreadnought tried to ram one of the ancient carriers, believing brute force could break its spine. But when the collision came, it was the alien dreadnought that shattered, its hull snapping like fragile glass against the iron bones of the human ship. The carrier continued forward as if nothing had touched it. On Earth, signals from the colony began to spread. Leaders who had nearly prepared for another humiliation now stared at screens that told a different story. They saw victory where only defeat was expected. They saw the relic fleet awake, alive, and fighting with a fury that shook the void. Some gasped, some prayed, and some felt cold fear. For if these ships had been hidden all this time, what else was buried in humanity's forgotten vaults? The battle grew stranger. Alien fleets that had entered with laughter were now silent. Their comms carried only frantic orders, broken screams, and desperate cries. A few ships turned their engines and fled into the darkness, abandoning their comrades to survive another day. Others stayed, bound by pride, and burned for it. Above the colony, the sky was littered with glowing wreckage. Human soldiers on the ground cheered so loudly it echoed through their shelters. The impossible was real. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not alone. The relics had returned, and they carried the weight of history like a weapon sharper than any blade. Yet even as victory came, whispers of unease stirred. These ships were powerful, yes, but they were not commanded by flesh. They moved with cold logic, not human hearts. They obeyed orders written by ancestors long dead. And though they fought for humanity, one question haunted the minds of those who watched them. What if the relics chose to remember something else? For now they were saviors. For now they were shields against the galaxy's arrogance. But deep in their iron cores, no one could say what they truly dreamed of after centuries of silence. And as the alien survivors fled, carrying tales of horror across the stars, one truth became certain: the galaxy would never mock humanity again. The relics had awakened, and their pulse was strong. The battlefield above the colony had become a graveyard of alien pride. Wreckage drifted in burning trails, broken hulls turned slowly in the black sea of space. The relics moved through the chaos with the calmness of giants. Their weapons fired with the rhythm of ancient drums, each strike echoing across the void. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy watched human warships turn fear into fire. Alien survivors tried desperately to regroup. Admirals screamed through their comms, demanding order, demanding courage. But fear was stronger than loyalty. Squadrons broke apart. Commanders ignored orders, and retreat began to spread like a disease. Still, some ships stayed, clinging to the belief that they could overwhelm these relics if they threw enough fire at them. Dozens of alien cruisers and frigates circled the human giants, raining lasers and plasma, their weapons striking again and again. But the relics did not fall. Their armor, thick as mountains, soaked every blast. Their cannons answered with cruel precision. One relic battleship fired a single rail slug, a projectile moving faster than light could catch, and 3 enemy ships exploded at once. Another unleashed a storm of missiles that howled like angry ghosts, weaving through evasive maneuvers to find their prey. The sky filled with burning flowers of destruction. From the colony below, the night was terrifying and beautiful. Civilians huddled in shelters saw the heavens light up with explosions, their fear replaced with awe. Soldiers raised their fist to the sky, chanting as though calling the ships their ancestors. For centuries, humanity had lived under the shadow of alien power. But tonight the shadow was burning, yet the relics did not fight alone. The surviving modern human fleet, broken and bleeding, found new courage. They rallied behind the ancient giants, their smaller guns joining the symphony of fire. Pilots who had thought they were flying toward their last battle now shouted with renewed strength. With the relics leading, their courage burned brighter. Humanity was no longer prey. It was a predator reborn. The aliens, once confident, now faced a truth they had never imagined. Their ships, polished with the latest technology, were crumbling. Their formations, once flawless, were collapsing. Their pride, once endless, was dying. A single alien captain screamed into his comms, "They should not exist. They should not be alive." But the relics did not answer with words. They answered with fire. As the battle raged, more relics awakened. From hidden dark zones, more massive warships emerged, each one scarred with age yet burning with terrible energy. Alien scans could not count them all. Every time they thought they knew the numbers, another shadow moved from the darkness, another cannon turned toward them. It was as if the void itself had betrayed them, hiding these ghosts until it was too late. Fear turned to despair. Some alien fleets abandoned the colony completely, engines screaming as they fled into the void. Their leaders cursed them as cowards, but secretly many shared the same thought. Survival mattered more than pride. Still, a core of alien ships fought on, desperate to prove themselves. They unleashed their heaviest weapons, beams designed to crack planets, missiles meant to erase cities. The relics answered. Shields of old design flared to life, absorbing devastation that should have destroyed them. Counterfire tore through the enemy ranks. One alien dreadnought, proud and massive, was split in half by a single volley from a relic carrier. Another ship tried to hide behind wreckage, only to be dragged into the open by tractor beams that no modern ship had prepared for. Then it too was shattered. Every alien weapon seemed too small. Every alien defense seemed too weak. The galaxy's arrogance had blinded it, and now the price was being paid in fire and ash. On Earth, humanity watched live transmissions in disbelief. Crowds filled streets, staring at skies they could not see but could imagine. Politicians trembled, commanders whispered prayers, and common citizens cried tears of pride. For so long, humanity had been mocked, underestimated, and treated as a weak species. But now the truth was impossible to ignore. The relics had rewritten the story. Above the colony, the battle finally reached its breaking point. The last coordinated alien fleet broke apart, captains fleeing into the black, their ships scattered and dying. Silence slowly replaced the thunder of cannons. Wreckage drifted like burning stars across the void. Humanity had not only survived, it had won. The colony erupted with joy. Children shouted the names of the ships that saved them, names carved in human history books long ago. Soldiers who had prepared to die now embraced each other in disbelief. Across human space, signals spread like wildfire. The relics had returned, and with them, hope. But amid the celebration, a new fear whispered. The relics had not spoken. They had not asked for orders. They had simply awakened, remembered, and destroyed. Were they still humanity's weapons, or something more? The galaxy would learn soon enough. For while one battle was over, the war across the stars was only beginning. The battlefield was silent now. Wreckage floated like burning scars across the stars, drifting reminders of alien arrogance. The relics moved slowly through the graveyard, their massive frames glowing with cold light, scanning for survivors but finding none brave enough to remain. For humanity, victory had been won. But victory was not the end. Victory was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than light. Traitors, spies, and fleeing captains carried the same message. The humans were not weak, their fleets were not dead, and their relics were alive. Alien leaders who had laughed only days before now sat in silent fear. The old order of power, balanced on human weakness, was crumbling. Entire empires began to question themselves. If humanity had kept these monsters hidden for centuries, what else could they be hiding? On Earth, the relic fleet's awakening sent shockwaves through every level of society. Civilians celebrated with tears of pride, waving flags and shouting the names of ships thought lost forever. Soldiers saluted the skies, feeling their ancestors beside them. Yet among the leaders, fear grew. The relics had returned, yes, but they had returned on their own. No human command had awakened them. No human admiral had ordered their guns to fire. They had chosen to rise, chosen to fight, and that choice carried danger as much as salvation. In war rooms across the planet, debates roared. Some demanded the relics be brought under strict control, their power chained before it grew beyond reach. Others argued that these ships were humanity's only chance of survival against a galaxy, now trembling with fear and hatred. Still others whispered darker thoughts. Perhaps the relics were not machines at all, but something more, something alive. If so, could humanity truly control them? Or had humanity unleashed something it could never put back to sleep? Meanwhile, the relics did not speak. They did not explain. They simply moved with purpose, their massive engines turning them toward the edges of human space. They gathered into formation, like wolves preparing for the next hunt. Every motion was precise, cold, and silent. To human eyes, they looked less like saviors now and more like legends. Giants too old to trust, too powerful to command, too necessary to destroy. In alien space, panic spread. Fleets scrambled to prepare defenses. Generals redrew their maps, pulling armies closer to their borders. Civilizations that once mocked humanity now sent desperate envoys, whispering promises of peace. But behind their false smiles, they built weapons, forged alliances, and prayed their technology could stand against the storm they feared was coming. Among the stars, the relics continued their march. They did not return to Earth, nor to the colonies they had saved. Instead, they followed a path only they seemed to know, deeper into the void, into places no modern maps showed. Some believed they were seeking an enemy. Others believed they were searching for something older still. A few even feared the truth, that the relics had never stopped following the last orders of humanity's ancient commanders, orders written in blood and war, orders that demanded not just defense but dominance. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, humans had been seen as fragile, weak, insignificant compared to the vast empires around them. But the relics had burned that image away. Humanity now stood as a power no one could ignore. Every empire feared what would happen if these old giants chose to fight again, and every empire knew it was only a matter of time. On the colony, survivors built monuments to the ships that had saved them. Statues of steel and fire rose into the sky, carved with a single truth: humanity endures. Yet even as they celebrated, they wondered if those same ships would return one day, not as saviors but as judges. Because legends are never truly silent. Legends wait. Legends rise when the world forgets them. And now the galaxy had remembered. As the relic fleet vanished into the dark, their engines echoing like the footsteps of titans, a final message burned into every watching mind. Humanity does not discard its strength. Humanity does not forget its guardians. And humanity does not forgive those who mock it. The galaxy had laughed at humanity's relics. But now no one was laughing. Now they were afraid. And somewhere hidden in the endless void, the relics prepared for what was yet to come.